A bug has just happened on Ethereum. We're going to talk about the update that just happened and the major bug that came with it. We're also going to cover a whole bunch of other topics. I'm going to talk about Solana, Cardano, decentralized finance, and several other topics. Let's start with crypto prices. We have BTC at $93,000, Ethereum at $3,000 and almost $200. 4% increase. Let's start with Ethereum and the update that just happened. It happened yesterday. It went well. It was very anticipated because it's an upgrade that introduced a lot of different features. But I'm going to focus on 2 points and then the bug. The two major features that bring these updates are both related to L2s, the layer 2 solutions on Ethereum like Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, Mantle, and many others. This upgrade is going to increase the capacities of L2s on the Ethereum network by expanding the storage space, the blob space used by L2s to store information, to compress various data from L2 and then post it on the main Ethereum network. That's a good thing. It will allow even more transaction on L2s. At the same time, there's something else that's positive for the ETH token. It's this blob space will now have a floor price, a minimum price that will be higher than the current one, which is basically close to zero. This means that even in periods of low activities on L2s, the L2s will still end up paying higher transaction fees than before. So more revenue overall for the Ethereum networks, and that's also a good thing. So you get both effects. In periods of low activity, L2s pay more fees. In periods of high activity, they pay less because there's more available space on the Ethereum network. Overall, that's pretty good. But this upgrade, which is a hard fork by the way, and Ethereum has hard forks pretty often, around 2 per year, well, this upgrade caused the bug on the Ethereum network. Look at this. You can see here the percentage of missed slots. You can think of this as the number of missed blocks. Blocks that were supposed to be produced but weren't. Basically, a validator was chosen to produce a block, but the block wasn't produced. I'm simplifying, but that's essentially what it means. And you can see that on average on the Ethereum network on December 4th, we had up to 30% of missed slots. That means 30% of blocks that didn't go through. It doesn't mean the network stopped working. It just means that instead of having a block every 12 seconds like we're supposed to on the Ethereum network, sometimes we had 1 or even 2 consecutive slots with no block produced. So the blockchain didn't stop, it was just slowed. It slowed down. Transaction took a little bit longer to go through, but everything eventually went through. And again, the issue affected at most 30% of the blocks and it was resolved quickly. So what was the problem? It came from the Prysm software. On Ethereum, validators can run different client softwares. These are several different ones that power the networks. There's a website called Client Diversity when you can see all of this. It shows the various clients used on the Ethereum network. For those who remember the old Ethereum architecture, you have 2 different blockchains, the consensus layer and the execution layer that both merged a few years ago. On the consensus layer, you have Lighthouse, Prysm, Teku, Nimbus, several different clients. On the execution layer, you also have different clients, Get, Nethermind, Besu, and multiple clients. Each has a market share. Lighthouse is at 52% now. It used to be lower, but it increased a lot after the bug. And the one that had the bug was Prysm. Prysm used to be the dominant consensus layer, and now its share dropped to 70%. So Prysm had a bug. They fixed it quickly. They explained how to resolve it. It was a configuration issue that required validators to adjust a specific setting. They reacted fast, and in the end, everything went fine. Why am I talking about this? Because it's interesting to see that hard forks can lead to bugs, and we know that. That's why the Bitcoin network is extremely reluctant to any kind of hard fork. But the strength of the Ethereum network is that there are so many different pieces of software, different clients running Ethereum, that you can't have a major bug that's bring the whole network down. These clients are developed by different teams. They're not all using the same code base. The initial specification is the same, but the actual software implementation are different. What it means is that even if, like we're saying right now, Prysm has an issue, it's not the end of the world. You might have a 10%, 20%, 30% of the network potentially stopping, but the rest of the network will keep running. And this client diversity is something that's extremely important for Ethereum. It's also why the Ethereum network has never gone down. It's why Ethereum has basically never had any real blackout for more than 10 years. That's the strength of the Ethereum network, the diversity of clients. I don't know any other blockchain that has such a high level of client diversity. And every time one client grows too much, when one software starts taking too much market share, the community steps in to rebalance things. For example, Get once reached around 80% of the market share. The community pushed to reduce that, and it works. Lighthouse isn't supposed to stay that high either. I hope it goes down. As I told you, Prysm was the dominant one before, but yeah, with this incident, it went down. The idea is that there should always be a part of the network running, even if two clients stop working. Even if there's many bugs and only one client keeps running, it keeps the blockchain running. Of course, it will be less performant. We might run into other problems, but it's really rare to have a bug in multiple clients. So yeah, there are a lot of entities developing these clients. That's real decentralization, and there's a real resilience even if bugs appear on the blockchain, and institutions love that. Now, let's move on to Solana. Yes, Solana Solana Mobile, in fact, has just announced the SKR token. What is this token? The SKR token, it's a token that has just been announced. It's the token of the Solana Mobile ecosystem. If you remember, Solana Mobile has launched a phone before. Solana Mobile is a subsidiary of Solana Labs, so the company that develops Solana, which was created by Anatoly, the founder of Solana. So it's really, really close to Solana, to the token, to the foundation also. But it's a for-profit company. And they just announced their token, the SKR token, that will arrive in January 2026. There will be 10 billion tokens. 30% of the supply is reserved for airdrops. Of course, some token will be kept by the team, Solana Mobile, Anatoly, and other founders. And well, the token will have a $10 billion total supply, which is huge. 10% is for liquidity, 30% for airdrops, 25% is for growth initiatives, and yeah, to accelerate the development of the Solana mobile ecosystem. Honestly, what we're seeing here is pretty rare. As far as I know, it's the first time we've seen a company behind the blockchain, Solana, actually launching a real smartphone, a proper device, and trying to scale with its own token. It's a bit strange because seeing the people behind Solana launch a brand new device and also a brand new token, it kind of dilutes the Solana original token, the Sol token. I think there will be a lot of speculation around this token. It's a token launched by the same team behind Solana, as I said, and it will clearly become one of the top tokens. I don't know if in top 10, top 20, top 100, we will see. So expect this token for January 2026. There will definitely be airdrops for people who own the phone and probably for people who bought the first phone for Solana as well, or maybe the next one. I don't know. We'll see. Solana, by the way, has just launched another ETF. Well, Franklin Templeton launched a new ETF, a Solana ETF, with staking also. But yeah, honestly, there are already several ETFs that were already launched, especially the Bitwise one with staking, which accumulated massive amount of token. But anyway, we already know that the big cryptocurrencies are going to have a ton of different ETFs. There will probably be a price war too between the ETFs to reduce the fees. And I'm pretty supportive of all these different kinds of ETFs, crypto ETFs. Next. Cardano, they just validated the plan to distribute 70 million ADA tokens, so several tens of millions of dollars of tokens. This comes from the Cardano treasury funds. It was voted by the community, and they approved this plan to allocate these tokens to develop a number of things on the Cardano network, expanding everything related to stablecoins, making sure that there are more stablecoins, developing cross-chain bridges so Cardano is better connected to other blockchains, building out DeFi also on Cardano, and growing the whole DeFi and stablecoin ecosystem. Because honestly, let's be real, it's an ecosystem that hasn't been growing that much. If you compare it to Solana, Ethereum, or others, Cardano is clearly behind. A big part of that comes from Cardano early technological limitation, and even today, the network doesn't handle a lot of transactions per second. Now they're trying to change all of that and attract more people through incentives, financial rewards, token distributed to protocol to generate high yields. When I say that, I still think it's a good thing for Cardano to try to grow the community who actually use Cardano, and not just people who buy the ADA token. Buying the ADA token isn't what's going to improve or grow the ecosystem for real users. Cardano needs people who actually come to build things on the network, who use stablecoins, who participate in lending and borrowing protocols who mint NFTs, even meme coins, whatever. There need to be real usage for the blockchain valuation to be justified. And we're talking about a blockchain that's still very well valued. Look, Cardano remains one of the top blockchains, rank 11 right now on CoinGecko. That's $16 billion market cap. It's huge. I don't know if you realize this, but it's valued higher than Hyperliquid, which has a massive user base and real revenue being generated. And that's the advantage of this blockchain that launched a long time ago. It's also the benefit of blockchain with strong communities. Look at this. Cardano, $16 billion. Bitcoin Cash, $11 billion. I honestly can't believe some cryptos are valued this high with no real usage behind them. But again, it's a strong community, historical presence also. People like crypto that have been around for years, that have a track record, that aren't going to disappear overnight. Next, let's talk about strategy, MicroStrategy. We've seen that they reduced their direct BTC purchases lately. They created financial products so they can keep buying BTC. They're offering yield to users who want to buy a kind of stablecoin, for example, STRC. It's like a stablecoin, but instead of stablecoin, it's stable around $100. If you want to earn yield, you can buy this token, this security. It's not stablecoin. It's more like a bond or a coupon, a sort of share issued by MicroStrategy that historically gave you 9% yield. They went up to 10%, then 10.5% yield annually, and now they're raising it to 10.75%. Why? Because it basically behaves like a stablecoin that's not really stable. It's supposed to be worth $100, and they're increasing the yield to push the price of this stablecoin product back to $100. For now, it's trading below $100. So basically, what they're trying to do is increase the value of this token by raising the yield. For those who really know DeFi, these are mechanisms similar to peg mechanisms, stability mechanisms that you usually see in traditional world. You usually don't see them really in traditional world. While strategy is trying to do the same thing with the STRC. They have to do this so they can raise even more money, because if it trades under $100, they won't be able to issue new STRCs. If it trades below $100, it doesn't work. So it's in their best interest to push all of this up. We'll see how far they need to go. Will they have to go to 11, 12, 13%? We'll see. Next, let's talk about XRP. Let's talk about XRP with the XRP ETF doing pretty well. We've reached $845 million on XRP, on the different XRP ETFs, which is pretty good. We're really getting close to the $1 billion mark. It shows that it's working pretty well. This XRP ETF, the Solana ETF, and the different altcoin ETF have both performed pretty well lately. Chainlink launched yesterday. We'll follow that ETF once we have enough data to step back and analyze it. Then Fluid. I want to talk to you about Fluid because it's a protocol I really like. Fluid kind of merges the decentralized exchanges with the lending borrowing protocols. At its core, it's originally a lending borrowing protocol built on Ethereum. They launched on Solana in partnership with Jupiter. They created Jupiter's lending offering, and now they're doing the same thing with Venus on the BNB chain. They're creating a new lending offering called Venus X in partnership with Fluid. They'll be splitting revenues 50-50. And that strategy Fluid is taking is really impressive. It's really interesting. They're not trying to launch under their own brand on blockchain where they have zero users and zero community. Instead, they're going to find the leaders or strong products already established on those chains and launch through partnerships with them. It's smart. It worked extremely well on Solana, where they have more than $1.5 billion TVL, and now they're trying to replicate that on the BNB chain. It's an innovative strategy, and yeah, I really appreciate what Fluid is doing, both on the smart contract technology side, where the lending, borrowing design are genuinely innovative, and also on the commercial side, where the strategy is very different and honestly quite differentiating compared to other protocols. We saw this yesterday with Aave. I told you about it. They launched a ton of different instances on different blockchains, but in the end, they're not leaders, or many of them don't generate much revenue. Fluid, I think, is going to expand gradually onto the biggest blockchains, always partnering with major historical player, and they're going to capture a very large market share, and that's a good thing for the Fluid token in the end. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next updates. Bye bye.